Hello, here's the complete Excel church membership template. Now in this video, I'm going to go through all the sections highlighting the basic functionalities. So on the screen, I've opened up the template and it's powered with Microsoft Excel. So you need to have Excel installed on your computer, preferably a version from 2013. Now once you open up the document, you arrive on the first page, which is the member information section. Now, all sections in this template have an identical formatting. In the upper left-hand corner, we have the section title, and this tells the user at any point in time the section you're on. So notice it says member information, so you know this is where you document all of your members. To the right of this, we have two buttons, to add a new member and to delete an existing member. Below this, we have our data table, and this is where all members will be listed. At the top, you notice that we have column headers. These are the attributes you expected to supply per member. Now to add a new member, you simply click on the Add Member button at the top, and this pops up an Excel form. Excel form provide a simpler way to store data to this table here. So you notice that the column headers I referenced earlier at the top are equally listed on the form as labels. The user simply has to supply values to the white portion of the form. Now this form is made up of two pages, so we're currently on page 1. If I click on page 2, you notice there are additional attributes that you're expected to supply. Now not all attributes are mandatory, so as at the point of entry, you're expected to enter, or you can enter at least only the first name and the mobile number. The other fields are optional, so you can always update them in the future. But these are the two minimum requirements, the full name and the phone number. Now to start, first you enter the title. Now this is a drop-down list, as we can see a drop-down arrow to the right of this cell. Once you click, it's going to list the defined options. Later on in the video, I'm going to show you how you can add additional titles or modify existing titles. So let's assume this is a miss. Moving to the next field, you enter the full name, which should be in this format, the first name followed by the middle, then the surname. Now to move to the next field, you can either make use of the tab key on your keyboard. So once you press the tab key to move you from your current field to the next field for data entry. So this is a quick way to move from one field to another. Or you can simply just click with your mouse. Now we're on the gender field. So there are two genders, male and female. You can either use the drop-down list and select, or you can start typing. For instance, M, it will autofill male, and F, it will autofill female. Pressing the tab key to move to the next field, I select the family role. Now these are the default values. As mentioned earlier, later on I'm going to show you how you can add distinct values to all drop-down lists. So to the title, to the family role, and other drop-down lists on this form. So let's assume that this is the head of the household. I'm just going to change this to a Mrs. Let's assume she's married. And I'm going to enter a generic address. Now you can be more specific here, entering the house number, street number, and the exact location. Next, we enter the phone number, the home number, and I'm going to leave the home and the work blank. As I said, these are optional fields. I'm going to enter the birth date. Now the date format depends on the settings on your computer. On mine, it is the day, the month, then the year. So kindly check the settings on your computer before using the template, because yours might be the other way around, which is month, day, year. So this is the format of mine. Moving to the next field, I enter the email address, the native town, the state. Now this is equally a drop-down list, so you can click and search for your state, or you can start typing, for instance, F. It will autofill with the first state starting with F. Moving to the next field, you select the local government. Now functionalities have been added such that once you select the state, it's going to list only local governments in that particular state. So notice we have Abuja Municipal, Guadalajara, and so on. If I change this to, for instance, Lagos, and I move to the next field, you notice it will automatically list only local government areas in the state of Lagos. So we have Badagry and so on. So I'm going to change this back to FCT, and the local government will be Abuja Municipal. The profession, let's assume she's an accountant. She works in the Ministry of Health. A qualification is ACCA, and this is an optional field. It's for only students. I'm going to leave that blank. Now I've successfully entered values to all the fields in page 1. I can go ahead and move to page 2 and enter additional values. Now the template is designed such that for each church, there are fellowship zones, and under each zone, there are fellowship centers. So we've added 2 drop-down lists. These can equally be modified by you. We have generic content now, zone 1, zone 2. Later on, you can define that based on your church. Next, you indicate the center. Now, the advantage of these is later on you can generate a report where you can see only members in a particular zone or center. Membership date. Now, this is a very important field. This is what is used in other sections, which we're going to cover later on. This is the date that the member joined the church for the first time. So let's backdate, assuming the member joined on the 3rd of January 2019, joined as a guest, and I'm going to leave this blank. Let's assume we don't have that information. So below this, we list all children by Rose Random. Now, if Rose Random has no children, you can leave that blank, click on enter. But if she does, and we're going to assume that she does, we're going to enter the gender and the date of birth. Okay, so the 1st of January 1999. So once I'm done, I click on enter, and the template is going to store that member to my database. Once the process is complete, it's going to tell me member added, and we should see the member listed on the first row. So you notice all the attributes I supplied, the full name, the title, and as I scroll to the right, we'll see the additional values. So the state, local government, and so on. Now on the extreme right, we have two formula generated columns. We have the age and the age bracket. So the template will automatically calculate the age based on the birth date that you entered, and this will increase on a daily or a yearly basis automatically, and the age bracket. Now the template recognizes two brackets, so that's the adult and the youth. By default, we set it at 35. So anybody that is younger or equal to 35 is going to be a youth. Anybody that's older than 35 is going to be an adult. You can equally modify the upper bracket if 35 is too high or is too low. So these are the two formula generated fields. So now we successfully added the first member. To add another member, you repeat the process. You click on add member. You supply all the values on page 1 and page 2. To cancel, you simply click on cancel to hide the form. Now we added a child for Rose Random. So if we look at the bottom of the screen where we have our sheet tabs, you notice that we have a children section. So we're currently in the member section, member information. And once I click on the children tab, it's going to take us to that section of the template. Now you notice it has a similar formatting. Upper left, we have the section title telling us this is where you document all of your children. To the right, we have a delete button. And below this, we have the table where all children will be listed. So this is the child we just added. The membership date is the same as the mother. This is the child's name. The parent's name, the child's name, the gender, and the date of birth. Now, if Rose Random has another child later on in the future, you can always add the child here manually. To do that, you simply double click on the cell and supply the values. So let's assume the child was born today. So that's the 3rd of March 2019. Next, you indicate the parents. Now this will automatically list a drop-down list with all members in your database. So we have only one member row, so you can go ahead and select the only member we have. The child's name, the gender, this is going to be a male, and lastly the date of birth, which is going to be today. So now I've successfully added another child for Rose Random. So that's how you manually add children. And if you want to delete any child for any reason, maybe you accidentally added the child, all you need to do is to simply click on the child's name, mark random, click on delete. You get a confirmation message asking if you're sure you want to delete this record. If you do, you click on yes, and the template will automatically delete that record. So that pretty much covers the functionality of the children section. So this is where you add all children for your members. Now going back to the member section, so we've covered how to add members. To delete is the same process. You click on the member name, you click on delete, you get your confirmation message. If you want to delete, you click yes. If you don't, you click no. So that's how you add members and children to the database. So the remaining fields are formula generated fields. But before I cover them, I'm going to go to the last worksheet, which is the list worksheet. Now this is where you modify all drop-down lists. So you notice we have the state and local governments. Let's say peradventure in future a new state is created. This is where you add in new states with the respective local governments. All you need to do is just to indicate the states under the states column and the local governments under the local government column. Under gender, we have only male and female. Under title, for instance, I can go ahead and add maybe doctor and professor. So I've added 2 new titles. So if I go back to my membership section and I click on add member, we should now see doctor and professor. So that's how you add additional titles. So going back to the list section, I'm just going to delete the 2 values and leave only the 3 default values. Under row, you can equally add other row. For instance, other rows, that's family rows, random, just for demonstration purposes. So I've added 2 new family rows. And under membership status too, I'm going to add smile. So I've added random values. This is just to demonstrate the functionality. Ignore the validity of the data. So under family rows, we now have random. And under member status, we now have Smile. So going back to the list section, I'm just going to delete the two values and Smile. So the same with your home, fellowship, zone, and center. So these are the two default values, zone 1, zone 2. You can always double click, erase, and replace the values. The same with the centers. And this is the age bracket we set, 35. So anybody older than 35 will be declared as an adult. Anybody younger than 35 or equal to 35 will be a youth. So you can always increase this, reduce this. It will automatically reflect in the membership section. So that's a summary of all data entry sections in the template. So we have three data entry sections: the members, the children, and the list. The remaining four are reports. Now, before I cover the reports, I'm just going to pause the video and I'm going to add additional members because we can better appreciate the reports when we have ample data. So I'm going to pause, add additional 10 members, and then restart the video. So I've added 8 additional members. So in total, we now have 9 members. You can find their names listed. If I scroll to the right, we'll find other attributes. For instance, the title, gender, family row. And scrolling to the right, we have the email addresses, date of birth, town, state, local governments, professions. So we have students and workers. And if I go to the extreme right where we have the two formula generated fields, you notice the template has automatically calculated your age. Now, if you don't enter a birth date, the age is going to be blank. Later on, whenever you update the birth date, it will automatically calculate the age. So in the event you don't have the birth date as at the day you're entering the information. Under age brackets, you notice that now we have two groups. We have adults and we have youths. So anybody that's less than or equal to 35 is a youth. Anybody that's above is an adult. Now, the advantage of this column is later on when we're generating the report age range, you can see the breakdown of your members based on their age bracket. So now I can go to the first report. Now the first report is the custom report. As the name says, this enables you to generate a custom report. It's possible, for instance, that if we go back to the membership section, you notice we have several rows here. So we have over 20 different rows with various data. You might just want to know or generate a report with the full name and their phone number. So you just want to print out a report of all of your members with their respective phone numbers. Maybe you want to send a bulk SMS or anything. So you simply go to the custom report, and here you simply select the columns you want. So this drop-down list will list all columns that you can choose. So I simply choose only the full name and the mobile number. And once I click refresh at the top, the template will automatically list all of my members. That's everybody listed in the member section with only their phone numbers. So you can print this out with only the values that you need. The same way, if I want to see only their email addresses, I simply click on email, click on refresh, and it's going to list all members with their respective email addresses. So that's why it's labeled custom report. So you define the columns you want to see. So if I want to see the full name, I want to see their phone numbers, and I also want to see their email addresses. So I want to have a report with 3 columns. So I simply select them side by side, click on refresh, and it's going to list a 3-column report. And it does that instantaneously. So there we go. Okay, and you can define up to all the columns you have. So if you want to create a replica of what you have here, but you just want to rearrange the columns, you simply keep selecting. Notice if I scroll to the side, we still have additional columns. Okay, so there are several other columns that you can add. The template will automatically generate the reports with all the columns that you selected. And this is the extreme end. You notice that the drop-down list equally has all the values. So in the unlikely events that you want to create a replica of the membership section, so you want to list all the columns, but just rearrange it, you can equally do that here. Now I'm just going to go ahead and add another attribute. So let's say I want to also see the gender. And you notice the moment that I select an attribute, it will automatically format the attributes. So notice it's blank, but the moment I select an attribute, for instance, the title, it will automatically format that. And let's say lastly, I want to see, going to the bottom, the age brackets. So once I click refresh, it's going to generate a report with only the attributes. That's the 6 attributes that I selected at the top: the gender, the title, and the age bracket. Okay, so that's why it's called a custom report. And if I want to delete, I simply delete all the attributes I don't want to see. Leave only the 2 attributes I want to see, name and phone number, click refresh, and it's going to list only those 2 attributes. Okay, so that's the first report, which is the custom report. Next, we have the monthly report summary. Now, this is a replica of the membership section. The only difference here is that you can filter by year and by months. So for instance, later on, as you start using the template, you're going to have data across multiple years and multiple months. So you might want to see transactions only in the year 2019. So you simply select 2019 and for any month you want to see. Now you notice that our data is spread across 3 months. We have January members, February member, and March members. So if you want to see for only January, you simply under months, select January, click on OK, and it's going to hide all other members, listing only members that have a membership date in the month of January 2019. So we have only 2. If I change this to February, it's going to list only members that have a membership date in the month of February. And here, I think we have more than 2. There we go. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you scroll to the extreme right, you can be able to see the total, all the other columns. So you can see the membership status, their zones, professions, place of work, the states, mobile numbers, and so on. And lastly, I can see the same thing for March. Click on OK, and it's going to list for March. So this is the first level of filter. You can filter by year and you can filter by month. Now you can go a step further. You notice that each of the attributes has a drop-down arrow to the right of it. So if I want to see all members that are Misters, in front of title, I can simply filter to see only Misters, click OK. It's going to show me only my members that have a title Mister. So you can equally further filter by each of the attributes. So you notice it's listing only the male Misters. I can clear that filter by clicking on Select All. I can do the same, for instance, for family row. So if I want to see all head of houses, I simply click on the drop down to the right of family row and I select what I want to see. So if I want to see spouse, I simply click on spouse. It's going to list only the spouses. So in the event you want to print a report of all spouses that you have. If I want to see all head of houses, I simply select head of house, click OK. It's going to display only head of household. So that way you can filter by any of the attributes. Now, so I don't lengthen the length of the video or so as to shorten the length of the video, I'm just going to filter by one other attribute. So scrolling to the right, I can decide that maybe I want to filter by the membership status. So for instance, I might want to see only worshipers. So I simply click on the arrow to the right of membership status. And here I unselect all and click only worshipers, click OK, and it's going to list only worshipers. Okay, and you can do this for anything. So I can do it for the fellowship zones, I can do this for the fellowship center, and so on. So it just gives you flexibility over the data that is displayed. Okay, so that's the first report. Enable you filter by year, by month, and by any of the attributes. So that's the first report, or the second rather. Now the third report is the age range report. So now we're in the members age range report. Now this report just shows you the breakdown of your members based on their age range. So at the bottom here, you notice we have the respective months listed. So if you have data from January to this month will be listed here. And to the right, we have the 2 categories. The first category is for adults, second for youth, and the third for undefined. So any member in which you didn't enter the birth date will be undefined. So we have one undefined member. And here we have the grand total. So from this table, we can know that in January, we have a total of 2 new members, and they were both adults. In February, we have a total of 5 new members. There were 3 adults, 1 youth, and 1 undefined member. And in March, we have a total of 2 new members, 1 adult, and 1 youth. And you can filter. Now, this is showing for all years. So if you have 10 years of data, this is going to combine everything together. If you want to see for a specific year, you simply indicate the year at the top, and it's going to show for only that year. In the same way, you can filter by your fellowship zones and your fellowship center. So if you want to know the total number of adults and youths you have in each fellowship zone, here you simply select the zone, for instance, zone 1, and it's going to show only members in zone 1. So you notice that the total has reduced to 6. If I change this to zone 2, you notice that the overall total will equally reduce. And to the right of this, we have a very dynamic chart. So the chart will change depending on your selection here. So now for January, for 2009, zone 2, we have a total of 3 new members, and this is the breakdown. I'm just going to do for all so you can be able to see the way the chart is going to automatically update. And now this is going to show for all zones and all centers. So there we go. So in January, we had 2. In February, we had 3. And this is the breakdown. So we had 3 here. That's with regards to adults, 1 youth, and 1 undefined. In March, we had 1 youths and 1 adults. And we have the legend here that tells you the blue is for adults, the yellow is for youths, and the checked blue is for undefined. Okay, so that's why we have, if you have 12 months, the chart is equally going to show for 12 months. Now, if I want to filter and see only January and February, I can click the arrow to the right of months. And here, for instance, I can unselect and select only January and February, and it's going to hide March. So you notice the chart is equally going to reflect that update. So this is only January versus February. And I can do this for other months. Now we don't have so much data. That's why, the chart is just showing 2 and 1. Later on, when you populate it with your real data, it will make more sense. So that's a summary of the first report. You just see the breakdown for adults versus youths based on the upper limit you set, which is currently 35. Now, the last report is the new member report, and it just enables you view the trend over the course of the month. So for 2019, on the right, you can be able to see a chart that shows you the trend. So in January, we had 2, we went up in February, then we came down in March. And you can see this for the 12th calendar month as you add additional data. On the left, we have the table. So in January 2019, we had 2, February 5, and March 3. And here you can be able to see the breakdown per center and per zone. So here, if I click the plus, you notice that we have zone 1, 2, center 1, 2. So the 2 in January are all in center 1, zone 1. For February, if I want to see the breakdown, I simply select the plus to the left of February, and it's going to tell me that in February we have 5 members, but this is split across zone 1 and zone 2. Zone 1 we have 3, zone 2 we have 2. And so 2 plus 3 gives us a total of 5. So it's going to break it down per zone and per center. Okay, and we can equally see that on the chart. Now, if you want to hide all the pluses, you can just click on this negative button to the extreme right of the chart. So once you click, it's going to automatically hide everything and just show you the breakdown per the respective months. So that's a summary of how this report works. It just enables you see the breakdown for particular months in a particular zone in a particular center. So that's a summary of the membership report. First, you add all of your members using the Add Member button, supply the values. You can equally add children by simply double-clicking, enter the date, the member, and all other attributes. The first report is custom, where you define what you want to see. So if you don't even want to see the name, if you just want to be able to see all of, so if you want to filter, for instance, by age brackets, and age. So if you just want to see the proportion number of age brackets with their respective age, click refresh. It's going to do that for all. So if you want to be anonymous, you don't actually want to see the name of every member. So you just know that these are all the age brackets and these are the respective ages of each of your members. Okay, so you can be flexible with the headers you want to see. And then the other 3 reports that are automatically generated.